working to make the real fruit of your labor the positive legacy you leave behind. Thank you. Dr. Troy Hendrickson is a global professional educator and conference keynote speaker with dual citizenship in Australia and the United States, and resides in both countries. He possesses passports from Australia and the US that are filled with colorful stamps and visas from all over the world, including 60 countries. He is a visiting professor at several international universities, a former academic All-American college football player, a U.S. ambassadorial scholar to Australia, a former postgraduate leadership program director, a dean of higher education, and a top-performing corporate pharmaceutical industry employee. But most importantly, he is still, at the core, just a humble boy who graduated from Potlaw. Who continues to dream big and pursue lofty goals while making an impact on the lives of others. Tonight he will share a commencement address with you, the class of 2018, titled, Your Best Is Yet to Come. Please welcome to the podium, Dr. Troy Hendrickson.
Every time I hear Dr. Troy Hendrickson, it reminds me of a kind of a humorous little tale. And a friend of mine ran into my mother. This was probably about 7 years ago, and hadn't seen each other in a long time. And he said, "Oh my gosh, Mrs. Hendrickson." Her name isn't even Hendrickson anymore, but that's another story. And he said, "So what's Troy up to now?" And she said, "Well, he lives in Australia, and he's a doctor, but not the kind that helps people." So leave it to mothers to keep you humble. So good evening, teachers, staff members, administrators, school board members, students, parents, and friends. It's an honor and a privilege to be addressing you from the very school system that has provided me with some memories, some great many memories, both personally and professionally, and been an important part of my journey thus far. In fact, as I reflect back on my own graduation from Potlaw nearly 30 years ago, in 1989, I realized that this was the foundation and preparation ground for a very colorful journey that I could only have dreamed of at that time. We're going to revisit both memories and dreams in a moment. But as nostalgic as this event is for me, today it's about you. So I want to officially say congratulations and ask everyone to join me in again celebrating their achievement. This truly is a significant milestone that you've earned the right to be proud of. However, I'd like to be a bit controversial and maybe even provocative before we get rolling, if I may. So I'm going to provide two insights just to set the stage for the event and what's ahead. Firstly, that diploma is only a piece of paper, but it's a symbol of your education and a reminder of the growth and progress that you have achieved thus far. I hope you accept it with pride and a sense of achievement as you reflect on what you have become as a person on this journey. Celebrate today, but please know that this is merely a signpost or a mile marker for the amazing life that lies ahead of you. Indeed, your best is yet to come. Secondly, remember that your education and growth is what you are celebrating, not just the diploma or the qualification. My second, and following on from that, my second insight is a reinforcement of what I just said by way of the definition of the event that we are at this evening. The notion of this being a commencement ceremony Although we're here on behalf of your completion, the word commencement is actually defined as a beginning or a start, the launch of something new. So consider tonight the launch of your next chapter. Again, congratulations. I just think it's important to set some context at the beginning. I can't help but wonder how each of you are feeling right now as 2018 graduates. I can remember my graduation day being filled with a range of emotions: relief, excitement, pride, anxiety, happiness, sadness, fear, and anticipation. I don't know if you can relate, but there's probably a lot of things swirling around in your head, and that's normal. All these things are happening simultaneously because you're now entering a new time frame, a new zone, a new chapter. So, I'd like to, if I may, just share a few ideas and suggestions based on lessons that I've learned over the years. That be okay? Is that all right? Okay. I hope so, because I'm going to do it anyway. Now, please know at the onset that any personal reference that I share is not meant to impress you, but instead it's shared to impress upon you something that I hope will have some useful benefit for each of you. There are about 50 different ideas that I brainstormed that I would love to share with you, but in the spirit of time, and to make sure I don't overwhelm you with more information, I will only share 3. I think your brains deserve a rest. And although there is no quiz, I do hope that you remember these and can put them into some type of practical application. All right, so everybody rub your hands together. Rub your hands together. And say, I can't wait for this. This is going to be great. All right. So, the first lesson I'd like to share is this. Someone else's opinion of you does not have to be your reality. Let me explain. In 1988, I had my big meeting with our career and guidance counselor at the school. This was a big deal, and every student had this discussion in order to figure out what we should be doing with the rest of our lives. The guidance counselor looked at my grades and my extracurricular involvement, and he said, "So Troy, what do your parents do?" I thought that was a bit odd, but I said, "Well, my father's a barber, and my mother's an office professional and a secretary." And he said, "So, do you have much money saved for college, or do you have any relatives that have perhaps put aside some money for further education?" I said, "No, not really, but I really believe I can make it at university." His guidance and suggestion was that I should enlist in the military. He questioned whether I was college material. Now, please understand, I have full respect for going into the military as a career path, and I have many friends that have done that. But he was trying to determine my future based on an opinion about my background, and this really didn't align with what I saw myself doing. Needless to say, I chose not to take his advice or agree with his opinion. Now, for what it's worth, and again, I'm telling you this just to impress upon you a point, I self-funded my entire education and graduated debt-free with 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees, and a PhD. So it can be done. If you want something bad enough, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had many, many amazing people in my life who've expressed opinions and given me advice. Great advice, in fact. But what I want to emphasize is this. You have the power and the capacity to decipher which advice is going to be the most valuable for you. Remember, someone's opinion of you and advice for you does not have to be your reality. And by the way, the advice you're getting from me tonight, that's good advice, so make sure you keep that. All right. I brought a little artifact. The second idea or lesson, some of you, I hope you can see this. I had to search all over, by the way, to find this, even went on eBay, but I have it here, so that's the main thing. The second idea I'd like to share with you has to do with memories and dreams, and the importance of prioritizing dreams over memories. I brought this little artifact with me to emphasize my point. Let me explain. This is an hourglass with sand falling from the top to the bottom. And I'd like to tell you the relationship between memories and dreams. I'd like you to imagine that your lives are a massive hourglass. Huge. The sand in the bottom represents the past. Those are the events of your life that have already taken place, your memories. And the sand on top, that represents your dreams, your goals, the things that you have not done yet. Once the sand falls, it's only a memory. So the past should be a place of reference, not a place of residence. I like to tell my students, remember the past, but don't be paralyzed by it. Each of you have done amazing things to get here. Reflect on that, be proud of that, but don't just live there. The future is where you're going to be spending the rest of your time. You should be proud of the resilience and persistence you've displayed to make it to this stage. Reflect on this and let it fuel your momentum. But please don't dwell on the past, regardless of whether it is positive or not so positive. I urge you to spend your time focusing on your dreams and your future goals, not just the memories of your past. Pick and choose which memories and facets of your past are going to serve you well moving forward. My analogy for you to consider is this. All of you have seen a boat out in the water, out in the lake. You know the wake that falls behind the boat? When you see the wake of a boat, that's only a reminder of where it's been. So the wake of the boat, it's an indication of where that boat has been. It does not need to determine or dictate the direction that the boat is going toward, i.e. the destination. This is the same with our dreams and goals for the future. Regardless of the difficulties, challenges, screw-ups, or anything that we've had, they are now just granules of sand at the bottom. They're the past. They're memories. Learn from them, reflect on them, and move on. We won't be able to change those experiences, but we can choose how we remember them and grow from those. However, the sand at the top, that's a different story. This represents the present and the future, and we can influence that and create any story we desire. My email signature says the best way to predict the future is to invent it. I hope that each of you will invent magical futures that build on your past, but is not just a repeat of your past. So the second lesson and recommendation is to focus on your dreams and not just your memories. Use every setback as a comeback. The third and final suggestion or lesson I would like to share with you is this. Choose the pain of discipline over the pain of regret. Let me explain. Determine what it is that you want to achieve and just go after it with tenacity and focus. Don't get discouraged if there are obstacles along the way. Those are just testing your desire. In my experiences, the most magnificent views always come after the hardest climbs. It takes a lot of discipline and commitment to keep progressing, but it will be worth the effort and much better than carrying the pain of regret if you give up. So take a rest if you must, but don't stop. Keep moving forward. And if you fall down, make sure that you bounce forward rather than bouncing back. Ask yourself what lesson you have learned from the hiccup and then continue to move forward. Trust me, the pain of discipline will always trump the pain of regret. And by the way, if you ever do feel like quitting or giving up, revisit why you started the pursuit in the first place. It's an amazing motivator. I tell my nephew that success only comes before work in the dictionary. So it will take some work and it will take some effort, but what you achieve at the end of it will be worth it. So I'm going to wind this down, and I hope these insights resonate with you and will serve you well as you leave this ceremony and move on to the next phase of your life. Each one of you are full of potential, knowledge, and skills. It's your time to shine. I'd like to leave you with this. Behind you are your memories. Before you are your dreams. Beside you are those who love you. Inside you is all you need. Keep progressing and prove to everyone that indeed your best is yet to come. Thank you.